Gordo here from Gordo's Games, and we're back for some more Digimon TCG content today. So at this point we are here with the deck profile. This is more of a fun deck overall. I'm not going to say it's a tier 1 deck. Disclaimer straight away before anybody takes that as whole hogs, but that is not the case. This deck is more of a fun one, but I do think it holds a good play and can take some people by surprise and matchups wise. So before we go into any further, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications so you know when this great content goes live for you. So we're here today at the old setup with none other than Phoenixmon, Marsmon, Birds and Beasts, Birds and the Beasts. Overall, the deck has some interesting text to it. You know, the ability to play bodies out from the Phoenixmon, the ability to give it rush with the Akio and things like that. So you can take games out of nowhere basically. And there are some, you know, different texts in the deck which just allow it to do what it needs to do. So I'm not going to go into too much detail. We'll go through it as we talk through the list. So first things first, we run 4 Yoko. Now apologies for the glare. No idea. Daytime cards, they just don't seem to work, do they? Run 4 Yokomon. I was running 4 Gorymon, but I've come to the realization that sometimes you don't get to that 6k marker, and you know you could do with an additional draw. And if you do get to Phoenix, you can always trigger this to go ahead and just draw a card if you don't want to play a body out, for instance. So run 4 Yoko. You could run a 5th deck, depending on games and that, which would just be a Gorymon. Moving on to level 3 is run 12 here. So the ratios in this deck are a bit obscure. They're more preference than what I've played into the deck overall. Then I'd say Ironclad. I think this deck you have a lot of flexibility of how you build, but this has been working for me. So we run a 1-of EX1 BMon. When attack once per turn, when this Digimon attacks a player, draw 1 card. Now that's not once per turn, so you do have the facility, you know, if you're able to get any sort of restand, hint Marsmon, you can get 2 draws. This does trigger because you obviously the raid will trigger afterwards, so you swing to security, trigger this, then use the raid and all that, so you get to unsuspend and all those kind of nice little pieces. So that's just for a little bit of cycle power, as well as it is part of the criteria for Phoenix, so you can play this out if needed, because we want to make sure that we have enough targets overall for the play out. We run 2 of the memory being one on deletion if it's your turn, game 1 memory. This card can really come up in a, it's just like, it's horrible there. Hang on a second. That's gonna annoy me. Okay, let's put that there for now. I'm gonna literally stack these as we go along because clearly Claire does not want to play nice today. So yeah, so if it's your turn, game 1 memory, this can be helpful just extending out your turns. Because let's say you go Phoenix, you swing, lets you play some out. You can play this out, swing it to security with the rush, and then just get initial memory when you need to. It could be good. It's good for choking. It's good for just an extra bit of chip damage. And even if you need that initial memory to be able to set up another tamer for the following turn, so your Phoenix can throw out a few extra things. So this one does come in handy. I run 2 of the vanilla Beomon. Just being a 2-drop can come up quite a lot this deck, because you do something to find it. Either I run out my eggs, or it's a case of I just need to throw down an additional body to get a blocker out, because we do run blockers here such as Bergamon and that. The deck's not got any sort of protection clauses really. You want half the things to be deleted anyway, but you want them to be deleted kind of on your terms with the Phoenix. And it's nice when you swing security. If it dies from battle, great, you get double the amount of Phoenixmon triggers. But sometimes you don't want them to swing over your body when it's their turn and then not have a response or not the right pieces in hand. So just being able to throw out a little bit 2, go into your blocker can be a nice play, or even just trying to set up something for your next turn. So this and go into a Grizzlymon, and following turn you've got a little body that can just swing over unsuspended things, clear out their rookies or floodgates. We run 3 of this one. Disclaimer, I would run 4. I already have 3, but yes, definitely run 4, and I would most likely cut one of the vanillas down if needed. But yeah, this card's just insane. Reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, add 1 red Digimon with vaccine its traits and 1 red Tamer card onto your hand. Near enough all of your deck is vaccine. So it's just a great search card. And being able to add 2 things off the back of that, a Tamer and a red Digimon, it's just a great value. and then has the on deletion of gain and memory. So we can try and deter your opponent from spinning into our stack, because we can potentially take turns back and things like that. And then finally we run 4 Argu. The reason I run this one over the Bearmon is because we can give Phoenixmon the buff, because it's not always the case that we want Phoenix to die when we spin security. If it happens, it happens. But if we can keep it alive, it makes your opponent have to work to get rid of it. So I run this one over the Bearmon because, yeah, okay, whether 3k would be nice, it doesn't always come up because it's only being used for the Marsmon. So that's our rookie lineup. Our level 4s are a little bit more obscure. Firstly, we run 3 of BT11 Digimon. Has blocker, has the inherent block deletion. You may play a Red Tamer card with a play cost of 4 or less from your hand without paying its cost. Without paying its cost, getting words out today. It's a blocker for us, so it allows us just to take that bit of damage. If you have the BM underneath it as well, we can gain a memory, so we can take plays away from our opponent, which is always nice. As well as if you get to the Phoenix, you can trigger its on deletion effect to get a Tamer if needed. Just overall, just good card on the deck, to be honest. If you can play this out of the Phoenix, then go into the next level up for it. So Gordo, things like that. Swing, if it dies, you can get a Tamer off the back of it as well. There's just a lot of plays that go hand in hand with it. We run 2 of the BT1 Phoenix. On play, one of your Digimon gains security attack +1. If we do trigger the effect Phoenix, we play this out, we can actually proc this so that the Phoenix gets a second check. So it allows just that extra push of aggression. If we can give it rush as well, we can actually just give a security check to this one, so we can do 2 checks at 4k. Doesn't often live, but it's pressure nonetheless, and that's the aim of the game here. This deck wants to try and apply as much pressure as it can. You got to get to your Phoenix stack and just keep chipping from there. We run a 1 of Digimon from EX1. When this Digimon attacks a player, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 3000 DP or less. Works well with a Marsmon, just for that added little bit of control. Even with the Phoenix as well, because we are always going to aim to go into security more so than not. So just being able to pop those smaller bodies, handy against things like Bloomlord, for instance, or any kind of floodgates that are there. So just run a 1 of there. And again, these can all be played as a target out from Phoenixmon. And then we run a 1 of Grizzlymon. I said the 3k buff can come up for the Marsmon, but for this one, it's more the fact of it's a control point to this one. Only there as a 1 of because I find it just clogs hand too often, and the inheritables can be dead to the Phoenix, or is dead to the Phoenix side of things. But having a raid print on it means we can look to swing 7k if we got the Argu underneath it into a Digimon. That can be quite good, just to clear out your opponent's level 4s or their floodgates, things like that, and just try and keep the control of the board whilst you're building. So run a 1 of that. The more obscure pieces, so run a 1 of Geo Grey. It's a vaccine again, but it's a potential hit from security. It's just in there as a 1 of, or I can throw it down for a bit of removal. And then we run 2 EX3 Ground 1. So on deletion, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 3000 DP or less. If no Digimon was deleted by this effect, both players trash the top 2 cards of the deck. That effect is kind of redundant. I mean, if it can pop something great, the milling doesn't really do anything for this deck as a whole. It's in here more so for the when attacking. So when attacking once per turn, you may delete one of your other Digimon to have this Digimon gain security attack +1. So let's say, for example, we play the Phoenix and we're able to play out a body. So we will trigger this to play out to this. We'll give the Phoenix a security attack. We'll also then trigger this to pop this to give it another security attack. So it's potentially 2 checks there off the back of just those. So it allows for just those kind of, like I said, there's a bit more of aggression plays. There's the level 4 lineup. The level 5s. Now, the Grappleomon and that's great, and that for the Marsmon, I felt like it was too slow in the deck. It didn't come up enough to the point of it was helping me win games. It was either a case I was too far behind, or I spent too much time chipping away their bodies. They just race them out and just do multiple checks, whereas I'm just trashing one at a time. So we haven't opted for any of those, but first things first, we opted for 4 Rise Greymons and 2 Rise Grey X. Reason being, we pay a hefty amount of Tamers, and we want ways to cheat them out. And this does allow for us to have that little bit of additional control. Yeah, of course, if you get a Phoenixmon, you don't often want to get rid of your stack, but if you've got things that are relevant, let's say like for example the vanilla BO or the vanilla Digimon in the stack, which gets security tap +1 on play, we can just kind of strip those things out, get some tamers down, put ourselves in a position whereas we're able to get set up for things like a Marsmon response, or even just Phoenixmon be able to proc out and play a level 6 off the back of it. 2 Rise Grey X, because this is generally just a great card for removal. So both of these are great in the removal side of things, but this one also is removal, but you can also just use it to swing. So if you have the right amount of tamers down, this can look to punch over people's level 6s with ease, because it does get a 1k buff for every red or yellow tamer you have down. Which in this deck we do run 12, so I'm not going to do the maths for you there, but that's 20k. There we go, I did the maths. That's a big body that's going to be swinging over things. If you have the hero there, you can even just buff it with that directly. So that's it. Just puts in a lot of work. And let's just play out a tamer. So we can go this, play out a tamer, into this, play out another tamer. And then if you go into Phoenix, or if you go into Marsmon, let's say to swing over something, you can then get some memory back, and just bang keep the turn, and then you can swing over something else. So if you really want to do controllable, these two are the great package for it. We're in a 2 of Gordo. The blockers, yeah, okay, it's there. But it is not really the main piece for it. It's just another one deletion. You may play a Red Tamer, same effect as the Digimon, but at level 5. So obviously, if you get a Digimon and Gordo stack and a Phoenix, let's say you swing with Phoenix, they all get popped. No, they all get deleted in security. Then you get all those triggers, which means you're gonna get a lot of your tamers now for good value. So just the 2 of Gordo. Like I said, the Grappleomon didn't come up enough for me to warrant it. Moving on to level 6s. So this is more focused around the Phoenixmon side of things, so we are going to run the 4 Phoenix. Your turn 1%, when a card is removed from your opponent's security stack, you may activate one of his Digimon's on deletion effect. So that could be the Gordomon, the Bergamon, even the Yokomon if you just need to cycle more cards. And then on deletion, you may also play one red Digimon card with Avian, Bird, Beast, Animal, Sovereign, other than Sea Animal in one of its traits, and 3000 DP or less from your hand without paying the cost. For each red tamer you have in play, add 2000 to the maximum DP of the cards you can play as effect. So you get where you're going with this one. If you've only just got the Phoenix out, no the tamers, you will still just get 3k bodies. So you can get out a BM on that. But the more we have, we can cycle up that effect. So if we look into us, let's say for example, there has been times when I played out a Phoenixmon off of a Phoenixmon, so 11k for 11k. So 4 tamers will get that. Yes, I was doing maths there, but honestly, terrible today. Terrible for it. But yeah, you have 4 tamers out. You have got the criteria to play out with a Phoenix, which means you can then swing, do it again. Its effect will trigger because something has been moved in security. Play out another one. If you have an Anarchia, you can go ahead and do it again. But if it gets deleted, you also get to play out another thing. So it's the combo itself can really go off if you have the right pieces. It is just the pacing issue, depending on how quick the meta goes and things like that. For our control aspect of it, we go 2 Marsmon. Heavily an underrated card. This I do feel it's the first introduction of Raid before going into BT12. The card itself, it just puts in so much work. So when Digimon has Blitz. Blitz is always good in any sort of red deck. Being able to do anything on your opponent's turn when passing over to your opponent's turn is massive. But your turn 1%, when one of your Digimon attack target is switched, unsuspend this Digimon and gain 1 memory for each red tamer you have in play. So we're not running the Grappleomon, we're not running massive amounts of the Grizzlymon. So we don't. It's always going to be this. It's going to be an attack switching. But even if you, let's say for example, we have the one-off Grizzlymon, if it does switch its attack, the effect of this will trigger if it's another Digimon board. But yeah, you can look to unsuspend and gain memory back in that, potentially have choking your opponent to minimal memory or even retain in turn. And then you can go ahead, swing again, redirect if need be, if you need to clear some off boards that you're leaving your opponent with nothing, or just to get those additional checks into security. So let's say to proc a Phoenixmon. Last but certainly not least, we run a one of Phoenixmon EX1. Now, This one in here is not hit for any sort of inheritables or any sort of mass brain plays. It is literally the case of, if you've got the criteria to get a level K body out with Phoenix, play this one out. It's got security tap +1 built into it. It also has the when attacking when this Digimon attacks a player, draw 2 cards. So if you can play this out, you're doing 2 checks and you're drawing 2 cards. So that's a great amount of value just off 1 card, applying some chip damage. So we run this as a one-off. I can't justify any more than that because you don't over the newer Phoenix, you just don't want to see it, to be honest. But it's nice that it's there as a one-off tech, and if you get, let's say you have got a bad hand early game, you can go evil up into that, swing, get some damage on board, draw some cards. You're in a good spot. Now this we're going into the, I'll leave the level 7s for now. We're going to go into the Tamer lineup. We run 12 here, so we run 2 hero. Giving ourselves the extra DP buffs more relevant than the ties and that, because we do run the Ryan's Grey, so often our stack isn't up to standard where it comes in as criteria, and the fact that we want to try and clear out bodies, let's say without level 5s, this allows us to do so, and also lets us try and keep things like the Phoenixmon and the Marsmon alive when swinging to security. We run 2 of Tai and Kari. Similar principle, we can lower down their security, so it does mean we're more likely to survive, so we can do things on our terms. If they're going to swing into us on their turn, they have to get rid of our body. We've already got our value from it, and then we can look to try and play something out if need be, as well as the fact of potential additional memory where possible. We run 3 Takato. The Takato itself is there with Marsmon more than anything. It's basically 2 memory for a Marsmon, so if you swing into something and unsuspend, tap this, you gain a memory, and you gain a memory because the Tamer is in place already. So Marsmon's a forecast the Evo. If you have 2 Takatos out, you're technically free at that point, as long as there's something to swing into. So that does put a lot of work in. And then we run 3 Avakia. I tried this at 4, and it's a great search card. Reveal the top 4 cards of your deck, and 1 red Digimon with quick vaccine that traits among them to your hand. Place the rest of the bottom of your deck in any order. And then when you play a red Digimon, all those effects, all those traits, in one of its traits, by an effect, by suspending the Tamer, you can give it rush. So it is great for that aspect of it, but I found it too cloggy having it at 4, because it doesn't reset you to anything. If you see multiples of this and you don't see any reset Tamers or anything that gives you memory, you often just get choked out and you just fall behind. So I found 3 to be enough, and it gives me enough search power as well. And you have enough ways to search it in the deck, or at least play it out if you've got it in hand. One option, it's 1 Sunrise Buster. Couldn't find much space for options, and to be honest, I felt like this was one of the few things, because you just need more ways to play out Tamers, and potentially the amount we've got down, you can look to clear out a big body with it, so we just run a 1 of Sunrise Buster. The level 7s, I'll be honest, I'm not 100% on whether you need them on occasions, but I have been trying some techs for the upcoming, not meta, but yeah, upcoming meta. I'll go with that one. So this deck can struggle with whiteboards like Bloom Lord and things like that, because of the fact of they can cycle out certain things, and if we can't deal with them in any sort of fashion, if we can't close the game out the game quick enough, we generally fall behind. And I think, for instance, Bloom Lord can be a problem for this, because your biggest removal piece for things on board is going to be Marsmon, and everything on there is suspended, which means the raid won't trigger. So we do run a 1 of Death Xmon, just to try and keep those boards tamed as much as possible. It has come up on a few occasions, and it has put people in a bad situation where they have to deal with this and they completely forget about all my other pieces. So I had a level 5 raising in 1 game, went out, raised that one into the Phoenix, got all my triggers, and swung through like the last 3 security and played something out with rush. So it can take the focus off and get rid of these stacks, because they automatically have to deal with this, otherwise they lose more things on board, or they need to close off game. With the newest release of the starter decks, I have been trying this. It has come up once or twice, but I run a merciful mode. Reason being, obviously, we put things back in their deck. Now, obviously, with BLs, it almost sounds like you're trying to help them out there in some scenarios. But to be fair, if it's really, let's say, early-ish game, like most BLs decks can get at least 10 things in trash or whatnot. If we're at the criteria where we can look to go into this, we can delete a body on board, and then we can also put those things back into their deck, so we can put their key pieces in there. So the things you'll be looking for is like to put their BLs back in the deck, or their off their non-trigger things. So things like say for example Witchmons that do stuff on when digivolving, or Dobermons, which basically is stuff that doesn't do anything if it's milled from the deck. So you just look to fill it back up with more things that are not helping their win cons. As well as that, if it does manage to survive, you go back to your turn, you go back into a Phoenix, and then you can do the whole thing, swing, they lose a security, you play out, so it gains rush, and you just keep chipping the game. So overall, that is the deck profile. I've had some good results with it. I might look to put some gameplay up for it at some stage, so keep an eye out for that one. And obviously, if you do like the content, if you do like the deck itself, if you have any comments on what you do to change it, by all means leave those down below. But otherwise, thank you for tuning into Gordo's Games. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.